Hello and welcome to Matters of the Heart. I'm Gabriel Gonsalves. I'm an international coach, teacher, and trainer specialized in the field of heart intelligence. I love helping people create relationships, lifestyles, and careers that they absolutely love. And I do this by showing you how to access your inner resources of love, joy, wisdom, and power that are available to you when you start connecting with your emotional, intuitive, energetic, and spiritual heart. Through individual and group coaching programs, online courses, and live seminars, I teach a wholehearted approach or a heart-centered approach to personal and spiritual development, emotional mastery, and conscious relationship building. Basically, I'm here to help you give birth to the most amazing, loving, joyful, and powerful version of you. You can find out more about me and the work that I do, that I've been called to do in this world, by visiting my website, heartintelligencecoach.com. There you can book a session with me or find out more about my upcoming seminars around the world. Today in Matters of the Heart, we're going to be talking about how to know when it's time to end a relationship. If you were with us last week, we began the conversation about why relationship ends. And we spoke about this wonderful metaphor of the music and the dancers. Today, we're going to take it to the next stage or the next step, all right? In what I believe is also a topic that is designed to lead you to some kind of a self-reflective process that will allow you to put your own life on the tapestry, your own relationships, and begin to ask yourself some fundamental questions that will support you along your journey. Remember that if you're listening to us live, if you have a question at any time that you'd like me to answer, you can just type it in under the Q&A section right at the bottom of your screen. Before we get started, let's take a few moments to center ourselves in our hearts. And we're going to do this simply with the intention of opening our hearts and our minds to new information, to new ideas, to new ways of seeing and understanding the process or the dynamics of relationship, not just why they come to an end, but also understanding when it's time to actually say goodbye. So we center ourselves in our heart by placing a hand over the middle of our chest. I often like to put my left hand over my heart because I believe it creates some kind of a loop. And we begin to breathe slowly, deeply, and evenly in and out of the heart. And the moment we do this, we begin to activate the vibration of sense of appreciation by beginning to think about something or someone that we appreciate. These three things in and of themselves begin to create an energetic, vibrational, magnetic shift in the magnetism of the heart, generating a frequency of 0.1 hertz. All right, so putting the focus on the heart, breathing in and out of the heart, and then beginning to think about something that we appreciate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open us up with the prayer of appreciation. As we breathe in and out of the heart, and then just take a moment to recognize that we live in an infinitely loving universe. In which we are breathing right now, living and having our being. The nature of this universe is one of love, that we are in essence made of love, of the energy of love that nurtures and supports all of life. The energy of love, not as an emotionality, but that which self-nurtures and cares for itself and all of its parts. So we breathe this awareness, we breathe this knowing, deep and in and out of our hearts. Know that right here, right now, there are no mistakes taking place in our lives, no mistakes that have taken place, no mistakes that will take place. That our life and our relationships are right now, despite external conditions, what they may look like on the outside, there are no mistakes. That everything is unfolding for our highest and our greatest yet to be. That every end of a relationship always marks the beginning of a new relationship, just like the day ended yesterday and it gave birth to the new day today. That in this limitless, non-linear reality of the spiritual, which we access through our hearts, there's no such thing as beginnings or endings, just a constant, ever expanding flow of cycles of relationships. Knowing that even though a relationship may appear to end on the outside for whatever reason, the relationship at the level of the heart continues infinitely. For once connected, we're always connected. So we give thanks for this awareness, opening ourselves up with gratitude and appreciation to a deeper understanding of knowing how to accept and embrace the process of letting go of those relationships that are no longer serving us, that have come to an end for whatever reason. The learning cycle have come to an end, so that we can open ourselves to even greater ways of being in relationship, with a deeper understanding that ultimately all relationships exist within ourselves. That's why they are a matter of the heart. And that ultimately these relationships that appear to be on the outside with people outside, there are only but a mirror or a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. For this awareness, for the loving, nurturing intelligence that is always, always taking care and providing for us, we give thanks and we let it be. And it is so, and so it is. Goodness. So this is a challenging topic. I must bear. I must begin by bearing it out from the perspective of that. I myself, I'm going through right now through a process of letting go of relationships, not only with clients, but people in my personal life, with family members, and which is, as you all know, brings up a tremendous amount of fear, anger, feelings of loneliness, feelings of guilt, and shame. It is the natural process of letting go of relationships. And today we're going to be exploring that in much greater detail. So as we move through the conversation today and some of the ideas and concepts and practices I'm going to be sharing with you, I want you to especially be very gentle and loving with yourself. Okay? What I'm going to be sharing with you comes in as my experience, not only as a human being who has had his heart broken many times in relationships, but also who has broken many hearts, who has ended relationships, and to whom a relationship has been ended with. Okay, so I've been on both the giving and the receiving end. And it's interesting, for me to begin this conversation with the idea or the understanding that relationships ultimately are, number one, they are a mirror that reflect back to us ultimately our relationship to our own selves. Also, relationships, they're designed to bring us both joy and pain. Okay, it is part of the duality of being alive. As Khalil Gibral says in his very well-known poem, love will crown us, but it will also crucify us. In other words, in this world duality, the more joy that you can experience in a relationship with a person, the more likely that you will experience the same level of pain in its opposite end. Okay, it is part of the human nature. It is part of being alive, and it is also part of the process of building attachments, which are necessary for our survival. The end of a relationship is always the end of an aspect of ourselves. Okay. Whenever somebody very close to you dies, whether if it's a romantic partner, your mother, your father, my experience is that what I mourn more often than not is not so much the person, but is who I was when I was with that person. The part of me that I got to express and share when I was in relationship with that person. More often than not, when it involves, for example, the passing, the transition to the other side of the veil of someone in our lives, um, I believe that the person, the being that just left is being reborn into another world. They are going back home. And ultimately, life is eternal in that sense. And so what ends up dying really inside of me. It's the way things were with them, the way I felt, the way I experienced myself in relationship with others. And it's important that we understand that. Okay, that when you die, when a relationship dies or comes to an end, a part of you also dies, and that's what makes the process so difficult. And that's why also I believe that the key is your connection with your heart and your ability to release that person into the unconditional love, forgiveness, and release that can only happen, the surrender that can only really happen internally through your connection with the heart. Every relationship that you have, if you look at all the relationships right now in your life, right, the good ones, the not so good ones, the bad ones, all of them will eventually, sooner or later, will come to an end. Therefore, letting go is going to always be the name of the game. Even if you're a parent who has children, you're going to have to let them go so they can, go on and live their lives and reinvent themselves and do like you did. Relationships also, they come into our lives for, as the old cliche says, for a season, for a reason, or for a lifetime. Okay, sometimes a particular person comes into your life because there's a reason. There's something that they needed to show you, that they needed to help you with. There's a lesson that you needed to learn, or maybe they came into your life to point you or to introduce you to another person or to another aspect of yourself that you needed to come to terms with, or you needed to embrace, or an aspect of yourself that you needed to let go or fully surrender, whatever that may be. And sometimes these relationships can be, very short-lived. There's a reason why people come into your life, but that's once the reason or the lesson is fulfilled, then just as quickly they move on with the natural rhythm of life. Sometimes relationships are here for a season. Sometimes we end up being in a relationship, the kind of romantic relationships that last 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And think of it as a season for your life, or the summer or the winter season of your life, or whatever that may be. All right. So these are the people that are here to walk a longer stretch of the journey with us. And then there are, of course, people that are lifetime relationships. It's almost as they are soul brothers and sisters with whom we've been walking this journey for a very, 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 very long time. And we'll continue to do that, even if we don't see each other for a very long time, but we get the sense that we've known them all of our lives, and we can pick up just where we left off. All right. Remember that every ending of every relationship will always mark the beginning. That is just the dynamic of life, that you cannot have a beginning without an end. It's an impossibility. So if you're thinking about, you like a new beginning in your life, you like to show up differently, you want to have a new kind of relationship, well, more often than not, what that really means is that you're going to have to start letting go of aspects of yourself that you are currently relating to or engaging in. Remember, we exist in relationships, and that the only way the new will start showing up in your life is once you start making room. All right. Once connected at the level of the heart with someone, you will always be connected. Always. And even when it appears that you're losing a person from your life, my experience is normally that the universe, God, life will instantly bring you back that person or the qualities of that person back into your life, either through another person or the qualities they will be in you. All right. And I can tell you, for example, to move away more into the practicality of how this plays out in my life. When I moved to South Africa 11 years ago, it was right after my mother passed away. And I remember, even in the midst of my pain of being in a country where I did not know anybody, that I was longing for my mom's warmth and affection. And immediately, within 2-3 weeks after my mom passing, I met this woman, this South African woman named Jeannie, who basically took me in like a son. And she was very affectionate, like my mother was. And she became like a mother to me during those months while I was mourning my mom. And then what I realized was that as the months and the years went by, a lot of the qualities that I had seen in my mom, I myself began to embody. I mean, even right now, my cooking, I cook like my mom, even though my mother never taught me how to cook. But I do believe that, you know, it's the thing that has been awakened in me. And I've realized also that I nurture some of my friends, and people that are close to my heart in the very same way in which my mom used to nurture me. So in many ways, you know, I've learned how to become my own mother in many ways and my own father in many ways. And in the process, learn how to love and nurture others the way that I was nurtured. Okay. So if the thing about it is that for us human beings, it's so easy to get so caught up in the form, to get so attached to how this love, this nurturing, and through whom the source, and we mistake sometimes, the person for the source. God is ultimately the source of all love, the universe, and we access it through our hearts. So that's ultimately the essence of what I teach, of what heart intelligence is about. But from the ego mind perspective, or just from the rational perspective, we have a tendency to associate a particular kind of love to a specific person. And that's when it becomes, or can become, very, very painful. So what I want to do is I want to offer you a metaphor for to guide us through this process of understanding when to let go, and how to know that a relationship is run its course and it's time now to end it, to say goodbye. And I want you to think about your relationships as a garden. My stepmother in Venezuela, Virginia, has like this beautiful rose garden. And if you've ever seen these lovely rose gardens, and there's a particular time of the year when the roses go through this very intense pruning. I mean, the people that have a really green thumb and are really good at growing roses, they know exactly where to cut, where to nip, and sometimes there's a particular time of the year where the entire rose bush is like bare down to the bones, just a few buds left. But then magically, it's like this incredible, beautiful plant is resurrected with the most beautiful roses, and it's like loaded. And somehow it didn't happen just by chance. It was really through the careful pruning and the vision that the gardeners had. So I want you to think of yourself and your relationships as a garden that you cultivate, because relationships, just like rose bushes or any plant that you have in your garden, has to be cultivated, has to be cared for. All right. So if your relationships are part of the plants that are in your current garden of your life, let me ask you, what kind of garden do you have right now? Right? If these relationships that you long to have are not there yet, what is the kind of plants that you would love to grow in that garden? Okay. What are you naturally good at growing? And if you don't have any gardening skills, what are the skills that you're going to need to learn in order to have the garden that you really want? And I'm asking you these questions, and they may seem rhetorical questions, but the essence of these questions is to get you to think in terms of relationships are alive, an expression of life themselves, and are live beings, if you may, okay? And that when you begin to approach them, from the perspective that they need to be cultivated, they need loving water, nurturing, fertilizing, care for, etc., you begin to understand more about why some of them do come to an end. So what kind of relationships do you want to have? Okay, what kind of relationship do you want to have? What is that relationship right now that appears to be ending, or you're starting to get a sense that it should probably come to an end? Maybe it's run its cycle. And what was it that you were hoping or looking forward to having or experiencing that maybe did or did not happen? Right? If you look at that relationship as a garden that you intended to plant, or where you saw the possibility, what is that for you? Now, something a lot of people don't know about growing roses, and I'm not by any means, an expert in growing roses, but I do have my own permaculture garden, and I do grow my own food. Well, mostly my leafy green vegetables and things like that. Um, when it comes to growing a rose bush, a gardener has to prune primarily three types of buds or branches in a rose bush. First, the gardener has to prune what would normally be considered the less than ideal buds. Okay. So those buds that they're nice, they're okay, but they're not like the strong, thriving ones that probably would have the greatest potential to have all these beautiful flowers. Okay. So what that means is then, in terms of our relationship, that also means that sometimes we're going to have to look at our relationships that we have, or our current relationship, and ask ourselves the question, does this relationship really have great potential? Right? Or is it just okay? Gardeners also prune what would normally be the sick or the disease buds. Okay, so at some point, the gardener realizes that no matter how much water, how much fertilizer, how much care, how much love he sends these branches or these buds, they're just not going to improve. They're not going to get better. And sometimes our relationships are like that. Sometimes no matter how much time, energy, love, nurturing, care, support you love somebody, or you give somebody, they just don't seem to be improving. The relationship doesn't appear to be going anywhere. Have you ever experienced that, where you just gave and gave and gave and gave and love and supported, and so the sort of the hope and the possibility of the relationship, yet you still felt like the relationship was not going anywhere, or the person was not really taking advantage of it? Now, the third pruning that the gardener does is they prune out the dead branches, of course. Because in a rose bush, that dead branch is literally occupying physical space where another beautiful branch could grow. So when it comes to our relationship, that's referring to those relationships that have long since been dead. You're still pretending to be friends, but there's no connection. The relationship has died a long time ago, and you probably have no desire to rekindle it. The other person doesn't either. And so you get a sense that it's just not going to work out, okay? Because basically the relationship is dead. Have you ever been in a situation where, after having this incredible relationship with someone, you walk and you're in their presence, and then you look at themselves and you just kind of walk away feeling like there's nothing here. There's nothing here for me. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That feeling that something died. Doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is dead, but something with regards to how you perceive the relationship and perceive yourself has died. The way of relating to that person has died. All right. So pruning in our relationships, then, to summarize what I just said, is requires ultimately seeing our relationships as a garden space, right? Where, the pruning, you're either doing it as a gardener, or life is doing it for you, because others are also pruning, and then life itself, through its own mechanism, is bringing people in and out of your life, right, for the same purpose, for growing, expanding, healing, connecting, rediscovering of your gifts, because ultimately we exist in relationship. And so when you take it upon yourself to take ownership of your relationship garden, right, it's important that you prune, right? It is part of the process. So you're pruning relationships that are okay, right, but not great, so that you can actually find people with a great potential to have a really wonderful relationship, where there's a lot of intimacy, connection, joy, deep desire of being together. All right. Where you're also pruning those relationships with those people who are sick, wounded, and they're just not getting well or not doing the work. Because let's face it, in the world, there are people who are going to love you for who you are, who are going to want to do the work to be in relationship with you. But some people are just going to be fools and not really going to value you, are not going to value what you have to offer. All right. Not because there's anything wrong with you, but they just don't see that. Okay. They are simply vibrationally not basically dancing a different dance. Okay. Not aware of the possibilities. They're just not really a good fit for you. So you want to release them. You want to prune them out. And ultimately, again, you want to prune those relationships that have long since been dead so that you can create space in your life for new relationships. It's one of the things that, it's happened to me a few times in my life. I don't want to say it's happened to me. I'll take ownership and say that I have actually done. I think throughout the process of my life, at least 2 or 3 times, I have lost my cell phone and my contacts and email addresses and all of that. And I remember during those times, I did it. I took the experience rather as from a sense of loss, like, oh my God, I lost all this contact with all these people. I actually saw it as an opportunity to see who are the people that miss me, who are the people to whom I was really important, who really wanted to be with me, who really valued me, who would reach out to me once they saw that, that I wasn't calling them or for whatever reason. And obviously that made the number of friends and relationships a lot smaller, but the ones that remained, probably to this day, they still remain. Okay, so it's a worthwhile exercise not to lose your phone and to do, and to go through the process of loss that I just described, but thinking in terms of what are those relationships? Who are those people in your life that if something like that were to happen to you, they would miss you. They will go out and look for your number. They would try to get a hold of you. Okay, that would be a great measure. That would be a really great measure of the quality of that relationship, especially in the days of today where it's so easy to have 5,000 instant friends on Facebook, yet at the same time not really have any true, real, deep, meaningful friendships. Now, why do you struggle? Why do I struggle? Pruning our relationship. Why does the process of letting go, why is it so difficult for you, for me, for all of us? Well, in my experience, it's mostly because, first of all, we are wired for connection. Second, the moment a relationship comes to an end, whether if it's initiated by you or the other person or life, in the case of death or an accident or just sometimes external circumstances, that will immediately bring feelings of hurt, anger, disappointment, shame, guilt, feeling alone, right? And so the majority of us will not take it upon ourselves to end a relationship simply because we are going to either inconvenience ourselves or hurt the other person. And sometimes, especially people who are very heart-centered, it's the last thing we want to do. We want to hurt other people. So we'll allow relationship to just sort of single or, fall by the wayside, I guess, instead of actually confronting ourselves, to the reality of the relationship, itself. So how do we let go then? That's the main thing you're here to learn and to explore, right? How do you let go? And how can you then begin to recognize that it's time then to let go of a particular relationship in your life? And I want you to know that what I'm sharing here today, even though it may appear that I'm talking specifically with regards to romantic relationship, but the truth is I'm speaking about all kinds of relationship, because ultimately, what makes a deep, meaningful relationship ultimately is not the sex. After being celibate for nearly 6 years, I know for a fact that from experience, that what makes a relationship truly intimate and close and deep is not sex. Something goes beyond that. Certainly, sex can be a pathway for getting there, but it's not necessarily the only pathways. So how do you let go? How do you let go? How do you recognize that it's time to let go? Well, I believe that the first thing that you have to get right before you decide to let go of a relationship, or that it's time to let go of a relationship, is that you take a look at yourself. That you take a good look at yourself and you ask yourself, who are you? And who do you want to be in relationship with others? Because it begins there. Because how will you know that a relationship is out of alignment if you don't really begin by first getting clear within yourself what it is that you want that relationship to be in alignment with, which is obviously you, your core values, kind of person you want to be in this world, and the kind of relationships you want to have in this world. Okay, so the process begins there, right? That's when you begin to get some clarity about when to let go of someone when someone is not a good fit for you, right? You need to have some kind of a standard, or a decision-making criteria that you can use. And one of the reasons why in the Path to Soulmate Love online course, which I'm teaching right now at this moment, one of the very first things that we do is help you begin to build a very clear, specific vision of the kind of relationship that you want to have and the person that you want to be in relationship with, okay? Because the journey begins there. Right? Think of it as you're almost like creating a space or a job, right, for an applicant. And so you want to get the job description right, so that if they are not fulfilling the role, that person, they're not being the right person, then you can identify and release them and let them go. So the process begins there. It begins by actually pointing the finger back at you before you point the finger at another person and say, they're not a good fit, they're mistreating me, they're not valuing me, they don't care about me, they don't love me. That you look back first at yourself and ask yourself the fundamental question: who are you? Who are you? And who do you want to be in relationship with others? Then you can ask yourself the following question, the next question, which is, what kind of relationship do you want to have? What kind of relationship do you want to have? And what kind of person do you want to be in relationship with? Okay, so these are the fundamental questions before you let go of anything or anybody, just simply from the pure feeling like, I don't like you, you hurt me, you triggered this wound, you didn't call me or message me back, when you said you would. That you begin there. You begin there by answering these fundamental questions, which, by the way, you're probably not going to be able to answer those questions right now because these questions are a fundamental aspect of life. But it begins there. The process begins there because then, as I just said, how are you going to then decide whether if a relationship or a person, it's a good fit or it's an alignment with who you are and with what you want? So once you're able to answer that question, then what I would suggest then is that you actually put the relationship through what I call the litmus tests of relationships ending. Okay. And this is actually a litmus test that actually applies to using the 3 centers of intelligence within our bodies, which is our rational mind, our intellect, intelligence of the mind, intelligence of the heart, and then the intelligence of your gut, the preservation instinct, if you may. So what are the questions? Well, think of a particular relationship right now that you might be struggling letting go of, right? I want you to bring the relationship into your mind's eye, and I want you to see if you can visualize a person right in front of you. Imagine that they're standing right in front of you. You're looking at them. Now, you are aware already of what it is that you want with this relationship. Let's assume you've already done the work. You're clear about who you are in the world, who you're here to be, right? And the kind of person you want to be in relationship with. And now the first question you want to ask yourself is, does it make sense that I let go of this person, of this relationship? Does it make sense? So we're going to look at first things from the rational perspective is answering the question, has this relationship run its course? Have you learned the lessons that you came to teach each other? Because here's the thing, if you haven't really taken the time to really master the lessons that oftentimes our relationships will bring us, chances are that the universe will bring you another teacher and another one until the lesson is learned. It's all about mastery, remember. So until the lesson is learned, you don't get to really move on. So oftentimes If you're the kind of person who finds yourself always like attracting the same kind of a partner and it's just a different kind of a face, then it's a question you might want to be asking yourself. What do they all have in common? Well, what is the lesson? Sometimes you learn the lesson. You learn the lesson. Like, for example, maybe you're someone who constantly goes after men or women who are unavailable. And part of that reason is because you yourself have been unavailable. It's a way to keep yourself unavailable. All right, maybe you just learn the lesson. Okay, maybe does it make sense? Have you given this relationship your best? Has something happened? Is there some behavior that was a deal breaker? Right? Did the other person do something or did you do something? All right, so at this level, is you want to look at the relationship from the pure rational perspective. Does this make sense? We don't have anything in common anymore. You know, this happened, that happened, whatever that may be. Does it make sense? The second question you want to ask yourself, does it feel right? Does it feel like it's time to let go or to bring this relationship to an end? Okay, does it feel, when you check in with your heart, when you bring this person into your mind's eye and you're looking at them, ask yourself the question, does it feel like we've reached the end? Like love is lost? Okay, maybe I don't feel excited about it anymore. Or maybe you feel as if the relationship or the way of relating is dead. When you think and feel into that, what comes off for you? You know, I remember the relationships in my life, throughout my life, that I have been the one that initiated the breakup, or and even relationship with work. I know that the relationships, more often than not, came to an end not because of a rational thing. It was really a matter of the heart. It was just a feeling thing. I remember one of them. I remember I was in the shower early on a Friday morning. And I remember in the middle of the shower, suddenly it's just like the penny dropped. It's like something just came out of nowhere. And I just felt this relationship has come to an end. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to end it. And that's exactly what I did. Obviously, you know, there was the consequences of the decision that came afterwards, the inconvenience, because I was obviously attached and whatnot. But I just knew it was the right thing to do. Right? I knew it felt right. Right? So does this relationship that you're thinking about right now, does it feel like it's the right thing to do? Does it feel right? Like it's the end? Okay. And then the third question you want to ask yourself is, does letting go or walking away, does ending this relationship, does it scare you? Okay. Does it scare you? Are you scared you're going to feel guilty, hurt, that you're going to break yours or the other person's heart, that you're going to risk being alone or feeling alone, that it might stress you, right? That it might flare up your addictions, you know, all those things. Does it do that? Okay, it's important that you ask yourself these questions, because remember, many of the reasons, or most, the main reason the majority of us don't walk out of a relationship, don't end it, is because we are afraid of the feelings that we're going to feel afterwards. All right, so the questions then that you want to ask yourself, and the idea is that for you to know that it's time to let go of the relationship, is that you must be able to get a yes to all these three questions. Does it make sense that it's time to leave the relationship? Does it make sense to let it go? Have I done everything that was within my power? Does it feel right? Does it feel like it's the end? Does it feel like the relationship has run its course? And finally, does letting go, walk away, does it scare me? If you get a yes, it makes sense. Yes, it feels right. Yes, it scares me. Then you are in the ballpark of already having made the decision, or being very, very, very close to having made the decision of ending the relationship. All right, so that it's a really good decision-making criteria. But remember, you first have to begin this process by looking at yourself and getting clarity with regards to who you are in a relationship. Who do you want to be? And what kind of person do you want to be in relationship with? Before you can then submit yourself to these, to these three questions. Which, by the way, even though I'm sharing them here in the context of choosing how to end or when to end a relationship, but the truth is that you could also use this exact same decision-making tool for making major life decisions. Say it's a job, because it's actually in many ways a new relationship with yourself by embarking on a job or a new adventure. Does it make sense? Does it feel right? Right? Does it scare me? Right? Remember that the reason it must provide you with a level of fear is because it's challenging you to step out of your comfort zone. Okay, and that is very important. Now, I want to mention something that it's is the struggle most people have, including myself, and I'll add myself in there as the exemplary human being I am, with all my faults. And it's the problem with hope. Okay, oftentimes people don't, or are very unwilling to walk out of a relationship or bring a relationship to an end because they keep having hope. And the hope is a wonderful thing, because hope is what gets us moving forward in life, to ask somebody out, to initiate the relationship in the first place, to want something different. Okay. It's an important part of moving forward in life. Okay. The truth is that sometimes it could be, if a, sort of a self-defeating mechanism, or part of what I call the attachment mechanism. So I keep having hope that the other person will change, or that things will change in the future. In the path to soulmate love course, there's a person who is in a relationship right now with a married man. They've been in a relationship for 10 years. Okay, and when I asked her, why haven't you left this man? Her answer was, well, because I still have hope that he will leave his wife to marry me. And I certainly empathize with her, because that was also the case with my mother. My mother spent 15, 20 years in a relationship with a man who was married, also having the same kind of hope, until she realized that things were not really going to change. And so, remember, are you being hopeless from a realistic perspective? Or are you using hope as a way to actually deal with the unavoidable truth that maybe it is time, it's in your best interest to bring this relationship to an end, to prune the relationship, if you may. Now, if you answer no to any of these three questions, does it feel right? Does it make sense? Does it scare you to leave this relationship, to end this relationship? If you've answered no, okay, then what I have for you now is a list of 7 questions you might want to ask yourself then instead. And then allow the answers to guide your next steps along the relationship. And I want to preface this by saying that, oftentimes what ends in a relationship is not the relationship itself, but it's the part of you that was relating to the other person, or it's just simply the old way in which you are or have been relating to this person. Okay, just to give you an example of what I mean. More often than not, we come into relationships, especially after having been single for quite a while, from a place of neediness. Okay, so from a place of fear, and so at the very beginning, I don't reveal the truth about myself. I'm not willing to ask for what I want, for what I need, to really show myself fully. And so the relationship begins under a false notion or false sense of who I am, because I'm not showing myself fully to the other person. And then as the relationship continues, I begin to show a little bit more of myself, and then the other person does too. And then it feels like the relationship is dying, when the truth is that it's not necessarily what that relationship that is dying, but it's actually that the way you have been relating is dying. Okay. Sometimes people have to go away for a while so that can happen. Okay, for the other person to become a little bit more whole, more secure, and then they come back and they're able to relate to each other from a healthier aspect of themselves. Okay, and it feels like the relationship has been reborn, but the truth is that it's both of you that have been reborn. You're showing up more fully, more really more real, more what I would call wholeheartedly, more courageously and unashamedly you than you've ever been. So that's the first thing. So here's the 7 questions. Okay. Number 1, have you given this relationship your very best? Do you feel, do you know, without a doubt, that you have left every stone? There's no, what do you call it? Was that the expression go? There's been no stone left unturned. I think that's what the expression is. Have you given this relationship your very best? Have you done everything that was within your power to bring, or to have this relationship, to support this relationship, to support the other person, whatever you feel or think was required for the relationship to succeed? Number 2, do you believe in your heart, not just in your mind, but in your heart, that this person is the best for you? Do you believe this person is the best for you? Remember we spoke about the best bud in the rose bush? You believe this is the best rose bush. And not only that, do you believe that you are the best for this person? This is the third question. All right. Oftentimes we have a tendency to see the other person as the prize, when the truth is, you are the prize. You are the prize. So do you believe that you are also the best for this person? That out of all the people out there in the world, you're probably the best person for them? Number 4, are you willing to face yourself and admit to yourself what in this relationship is not working for you? What are the unmet needs and the desires that you want? In other words, are you willing to just really be honest and real with yourself and tell yourself, this is not working for me. This is not who I am. It's not the kind of person I want to be with. My needs are not being met, blah, 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 whatever that may be for you. Are you willing to face that? Number 4, are you willing to, beyond that, after you've done that, to have a real, honest, and what probably will be a very uncomfortable conversation with the other person about the relationship and about each other's unmet needs, desires, and wants? Are you willing to not just share that and express it, reveal it, be truthful and real about it, but are you also willing to listen to them and see what they have to say? Number 6, are you and your partner or this person willing to agree, to reach some kind of an agreement regarding what kind of relationship you both want to be in? And this is all about creating a vision for the future. Remember, if there's no vision for the relationship, if you're both not clear about what it is that you both want, how will you ever make some kind of an agreement? So it begins there. Are you willing to have this conversation and make some kind of an agreement regarding some kind of a direction for the relationship? And then number 7, are you and this person, I'm going to call him or her your partner, willing to commit to investing time, energy, and possibly money to grow and develop the necessary skills that are going to ensure that you both move forward in this new direction? Now, the decision to either end the relationship, to shift the relationship, or to stay with the current course of action will be found somewhere as the answers begin to come to you, and you begin to really, in the intimacy of your own heart, and in the intimacy of the heart of the person that you're in relationship with, begin to gain greater clarity about who you are and who it is that you're wanting to be in this relationship. I think as you do that, you'll be in a better place of making the right decision that will be right for you. Remembering that ultimately, what's beautiful about the dance of relationships is that nothing is set on stone. The area of relationships is just as complicated as we human beings are. And ultimately, even though I've been providing you some questions that are designed to be thought-provoking and to inspire you. But ultimately, there's no right or wrong way of going about this. Like they say in Spanish, en el amor y en la guerra todo se vale, which means in war and in love, everything is allowed. So ultimately, these questions serve to give you a reference point and to be, a very practical decision-making tool and to give you a guide. But ultimately, it boils down to this, the kind of garden that you want to have and the kind of plants that you want to have in that garden. Okay. Not everybody's designed to grow, orchids. Orchids require a tremendous amount of care, some people just love growing cactus. And what happened with cactus? Well, they have big, thick thorns, Sometimes people enjoy being in relationship with people who challenge them, who bring out the best in them. All right. And so I think it's very, very important that you hold this in mind and begin to, just like we did last week, looking at what kind of dance do you want to dance and what kind of music and what rhythm do you want to dance to, that you also look at your relationships, and particularly that one relationship that you might be struggling with as that plant in that garden. You begin to answer these questions, and trust me, my wonderful friend, you'll be in a way better position that you were at the very beginning, knowing and trusting in your heart that ultimately, regardless of the outcome, you will and will always be connected with this person's heart, no matter what. All right. So if you have enjoyed today's topic and you want to learn more about what coaching or working with me could be or could do for you, I want you to consider booking a coaching session with me. You could also participate in one of my online courses. Currently, I am right now creating a course called The Path to Soulmate Love for people who are interested in creating a conscious, romantic relationship that is spiritually based. Or if you're interested in this process of learning how to coach other people through their own relationship issues, I also have a program, a 9-month program called the Heart Intelligence Coach Training Program, where you develop the communication and the relational skills, some of which I've been talking about today during this presentation. All right, all the information about these programs and the courses are available on my website at heartintelligencecoach.com. All right, let's bring it all home together by closing with a prayer. So I want to invite you to, just like we did at the very beginning, to put our hands over our heart again. And as you breathe deeply and evenly in and out of the heart, I want to ask you, you don't have to answer me, of course, but I want you to answer for yourself. What is the most significant idea or insight that you're taking with you today? What are you taking with you? What has really hit home for you? What has spoken to you and to your heart? And as you continue to breathe in and out of the heart, let us just know for ourselves and for each other that we live in an infinitely loving universe. That ultimately, every relationship that we are having in our universe, our personal universe, is ultimately an expression of the relationship that we have with ourselves. That every relationship is here to teach us ultimately to be more loving, to be more compassionate, to be more accepting, to be more understanding with others. Because as we are more loving, understanding, forgiving, accepting of others, we are also becoming more loving, understanding, and forgiving with ourselves. So as the prayer of St. Francis says, it is in loving that we are loved. It is in understanding that we are understood. It is in forgiving that we are forgiven. So we take a moment to give thanks for the time that we spent together, for the ultimate realization that regardless of external conditions, once a connection has been established deep within our own hearts, it remains there forever. And that neither time nor space can separate us from those people that we have loved the most. That we always have the option to continue to hold a loving, safe, nurturing space in our heart for them. and continue to hold the highest possibility for those relationships, that here and right now we are opening ourselves up for a miracle of healing to take place in those relationships that we feel or think have been lost. And that the power of love can pull a rabbit out of the hat and heal any relationship, heal any wound, heal any misunderstanding between two people that deeply love each other, who feel in their hearts that they're here for a greater purpose. It is for this realization that I give thanks for our time together and for the love that continues to live in our hearts as an expression of the heart of our Divine Father, Divine Mother, and the Christ that lives within our own hearts. For this, we're grateful, and we simply let it be. And so it is, and it is so. Amen. All right, we have come to the end of our show, and I hope that what you have learned or taken away with you today will support you in creating deeper, more loving, and satisfying relationships in all areas of your life. Remember that ultimately there is no such thing as mind over matters of the heart. For the heart, your inner source of love, wisdom, and power always, always, always wins. Until the next time, until we meet again. I almost started speaking Spanish there. Until we meet again, I send you all my love. And once again, thank you very much for lending me your hearts and your ears. Special thanks to Gite. You looks like you're having a very warm day there at home. And Teresa, who were joining us live here today. Thank you very much, and we'll connect again next week for another episode of Matters of the Heart, when we're going to actually be talking about how to find conscious completion to a relationship. So once you made a decision to end a relationship, how do you go about then to having that conversation to consciously complete the relationship with them? All right, bye-bye for now.